I don't know about you, but this feels like one of those days when every Broncos fan needs to be paying attention because we have two important stories that could tell us a lot about where this team is headed. The first story is about a talented young player whose future in Denver suddenly doesn't look as secure as it did just a short time ago. Trade rumors are starting to pick up. Another team has already been linked to him, and now Broncos fans are wondering if the front office could actually make a surprising move before the season begins. Then we'll get into our second story because a trade rumor that has followed this team for months may have finally reached its conclusion. A major move happened this week, and it could completely shut the door on one of the biggest connections Broncos fans have continued talking about throughout the offseason. Both of these stories could have an impact on how this roster looks heading into the new season, so there is definitely a lot to break down today. Before we get started, if you enjoy honest Broncos discussions from fans who follow this team every single day, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Broncos Insider Daily. The channel is still new, and we're working toward our first 100 subscribers. It would be awesome to have you with us from the very beginning as we continue building this community together. Let's start with the first story because this is the one creating the most discussion around Broncos fans right now. The big question is whether Marvin Mims Jr. could actually become available on the trade market. If you followed this team over the last couple of years, you know Mims has been one of the most explosive players on the roster whenever he gets the ball in his hands. Denver selected him in the second round of the 2023 NFL Draft out of Oklahoma, and he quickly showed why so many people believed in his potential. He became a legitimate deep threat on offense while also establishing himself as one of the best return specialists in football. That is exactly why he has already earned 2 Pro Bowl selections. Through his first 3 NFL seasons, Marvin Mims has recorded 98 receptions for 1,202 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. On special teams, he has averaged 15.8 yards per punt return and 26.6 yards per kick return. Those are outstanding numbers that show just how dangerous he can be whenever the football is in his hands. The issue here is not Marvin Mims' talent. The issue is whether there is still enough opportunity for him in Denver's offense. Everything changed after the Broncos made one of the biggest moves of the offseason by trading a first-round draft pick to acquire Jalen Waddle. Waddle is expected to fill a role that is very similar to the one Marvin Mims has played. When you combine that with Courtland Sutton remaining locked in as one of Denver's starting wide receivers, it becomes much harder to see where Mims fits as a consistent offensive contributor. Instead, most of his value could come on special teams. That is exactly why Bleacher Report analyst Mo Moton believes the Broncos should at least consider trading him. According to Moton, the Atlanta Falcons make the most logical destination. His reasoning is simple. Atlanta already has Drake London as the clear number 1 receiver. London continues to develop into one of the league's most dangerous young wide receivers. Behind him, however, the Falcons do not have a clear number 2 option. Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus, and rookie third-round pick Zachariah Branch are currently expected to compete for targets behind Drake London. Mo Moton believes Atlanta could solve that problem by acquiring Marvin Mims, who has proven NFL production but currently finds himself buried on Denver's depth chart. He also believes Mims understands that this season could potentially be his last with the Broncos if his offensive opportunities continue to decrease. From Atlanta's perspective, the move makes a lot of sense. The Falcons would not need Marvin Mims to become a 1,000-yard receiver or catch 100 passes. Drake London is already the focal point of the passing attack. Atlanta simply needs another reliable receiver who can stretch the field, create explosive plays, and give opposing defenses another player to worry about. Marvin Mims has exactly that skill set. The report also points out that Mims has a playing style similar to Jalen Waddle, even though Waddle is considered the better overall player. Because of those similarities, Mims could fit naturally into Atlanta's offense. The biggest question is whether Denver would actually be willing to move him. Even with Jalen Waddle and Courtland Sutton leading the receiving group, replacing Marvin Mims as a return specialist would not be easy. Very few players around the NFL can impact field position the way Mims does. The report also points out that the Broncos are fully committed to making a championship run during the 2026 season after many people believe they could have reached the Super Bowl last year if Bo Nix had not suffered his ankle injury. Because of that, unless the Falcons are willing to offer a significant draft pick, it is difficult to imagine Denver seriously considering moving one of the most explosive players on the roster. Personally, I think this is a really interesting debate. You can understand why another team would want Marvin Mims. You can also understand why the Broncos may not want to let him go. Players who can change a game with one touch are incredibly valuable, especially when the goal is making a deep playoff run. Sometimes those players become the difference between winning and losing the biggest games of the season. Now let's move on to our second story, because another rumor that has followed the Broncos for months may have finally come to an end. For a long time, Broncos fans continued hearing speculation about a possible reunion between Sean Payton and Alvin Kamara. Considering everything those two accomplished together with the New Orleans Saints, it was easy to understand why so many people believed it could eventually happen. But after what happened this week, that possibility now looks more unlikely than ever. Alvin Kamara and the New Orleans Saints agreed to a reworked contract that will keep the veteran running back in New Orleans. That move sends a very clear message that both sides want him to finish his career with the franchise that drafted him. Kamara is not just another veteran player for the Saints. He is the franchise's all-time leading rusher and one of the greatest players to ever wear a New Orleans uniform. Earlier this offseason, the Saints also signed Travis Etienne in free agency. That move is expected to reduce Kamara's workload going forward, but it never changed his desire to remain with the organization where his NFL career began. Even after New Orleans added Etienne, trade rumors involving Kamara and the Broncos continued to surface because of his history with Sean Payton. From the outside, the connection seemed logical. Sean Payton knows exactly what Kamara can do and built one of the league's most dangerous offenses around him during their time together in New Orleans. However, when you look at Denver's current roster, the situation tells a different story. The Broncos already re-signed J.K. Dobbins earlier this offseason, showing confidence in him as an important part of the running back room. Denver also used a fourth-round draft pick to select Jonah Coleman, another clear indication that the front office believes in the direction of its current backfield. Because of those moves, the Broncos no longer have the same need at running back that many fans believed they had earlier in the offseason. This new contract between Kamara and the Saints should finally put an end to those rumors. Looking back at Kamara's career, there is no denying everything he has accomplished. Across 9 NFL seasons, he has rushed for 7,250 yards and 61 rushing touchdowns. He has also been one of the NFL's most dangerous receiving running backs, catching 606 passes for 4,948 receiving yards and 25 receiving touchdowns. Those numbers speak for themselves. At his best, Alvin Kamara has been one of the most complete offensive weapons in football. At the same time, the Saints also have to look toward the future. Kamara is coming off the lowest rushing production of his NFL career. During the 2025 season, he rushed for only 471 yards while averaging just 3.6 yards per carry. Those numbers suggest that he may be starting to slow down, and that is likely one of the biggest reasons New Orleans decided to bring in Travis Etienne. Kamara is still a respected player around the league, and his name will always generate excitement whenever trade rumors begin. But based on everything that has happened this offseason, it is hard to imagine the Broncos making a serious push to acquire him now. Sean Payton has J.K. Dobbins. The Broncos have invested in Jonah Coleman. The Saints have committed to Alvin Kamara with a reworked contract. When you put all of those pieces together, it becomes very clear that this rumor no longer makes much sense for either team. Sometimes the biggest stories of the offseason are the ones that never actually happen. This feels like one of those situations. Broncos fans can probably close the book on the possibility of seeing Alvin Kamara wearing orange and blue because every recent move points toward both organizations staying exactly where they are. When you put both of these stories together, they actually give us a much clearer picture of where the Broncos are heading. The Marvin Mims situation is definitely one worth watching because there is no question about his talent. If another team comes forward with the right offer, George Paton and Sean Payton will have a decision to make. At the same time, keeping Mims could be just as valuable because explosive players who can make an impact on both offense and special teams are incredibly difficult to replace. As for Alvin Kamara, it finally feels like Broncos fans have their answer. The connection with Sean Payton made the rumors interesting for a long time, but after Denver re-signed J.K. Dobbins, drafted Jonah Coleman, and watched Kamara agree to a new deal with the New Orleans Saints. It is hard to see any realistic path that would bring him to Denver. Right now, the Broncos seem focused on building around the roster they already have. Jalen Waddle gives this offense another explosive playmaker alongside Courtland Sutton. Bo Nix is expected to lead the offense after recovering from his ankle injury. J.K. Dobbins and Jonah Coleman headline the running back room. And the coaching staff now has the challenge of getting the most out of one of the most talented rosters this franchise has had in years. That is why every decision from this point forward becomes so important. Whether it is deciding Marvin Mims' future or continuing to build around the current roster, every move the Broncos make could have a major impact on what this team accomplishes this season. Now I want to hear from you. If the Atlanta Falcons offered a valuable draft pick, would you trade Marvin Mims, or would you keep him in Denver because of everything he brings to the offense and special teams? And do you believe the Alvin Kamara rumors are officially over, or did you ever want to see Sean Payton reunite with him in Denver? Leave your opinion in the comments because I always enjoy reading what Broncos Country has to say. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Broncos Insider Daily. The channel is still new, and we're working toward our first 100 subscribers. If you love daily Broncos news, honest opinions, and real conversations with passionate fans, we'd love to have you here from the very beginning. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Go Broncos!